Hello and welcome to FatbossTV. Today we're back with another boss from the Warlords of Draenor beta. We're back with Beastlord Darmac on Heroic in the Blackrock Foundry.
Yes, this is the 7th boss in the dungeon journal at least. It seems like it could be maybe the first boss. It's like in Wings, I guess.
Yeah, Blackrock Foundry is laid out in Wings, so potentially, well, I think this guy is the first guy in that particular wing.
Yeah. So it's a little bit weird, but the fight itself, although it has quite a lot of mechanics, it's really quite underwhelming, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the problem is that Blizzard have put so many mechanics in this fight, they've had to sort of tone them down and make them slightly insignificant. It becomes more significant towards the end, where the boss has, like, loads of mechanics, but he, like, slowly gets those mechanics, like, over time. So until that last part, he's kind of a bit boring, I'd say. Yeah. And see, the thing is, the mechanics are sort of reminiscent of pretty much other mechanics we've already seen. None of the mechanics he has are new. None of the spells are new. I'm sure they might be renamed, but they are very, very similar to things we've already seen. Mostly things we've seen in Mr. Pandaria.
Yeah, like, in all fairness, I don't mind Blizzard reusing mechanics, but it's always nice if they present them in quite a new way or anything, but this doesn't seem to be presented in any new way.
This fight screams Ironquan.
Yeah, well, it screams loads of different bosses. It's like, okay, well, we like that mechanic, we'll put it in a boss somewhere. It's like they got a big list of, oh, we kind of like those mechanics, and then they just threw them all on top of Darmac and hoped that it worked. And to be honest, I don't think it really did that much.
No.
Maybe if all the mechanics did a hell of a lot more damage and were a lot more scary, then the fight would be better. But because I felt that I could just kind of stand there, and if I got hit by shit, I'd be like, oh, sorry, oh well, we'll deal with it. Yeah. But it is on beta, it has yet to be scaled. We have to see exactly how it's going to be on live, but in its current state, what we see it on the beta, I don't really see it as being a very good boss at all.
But whether it's a good boss or not aside, and whether we like it or not aside, we're going to show it to you guys, and we're going to talk about all the mechanics that are in play and how the encounter itself works. So the boss more or less has two phases. He has one phase where he's on foot, and then he has one phase where he's on top of a mount, one of his prime beasts, which are in chains around the room. You'll start the encounter initially when he's on foot, and once he reaches 85% health, he'll then get on one of the mounts. Once he does go on one of the mounts, you cannot kill him. He can no longer be targeted, but instead you can kill the mount. Once that mount is dead, he'll then come back off that mount, gain an ability from that mount that he'll then keep and use in the on-foot phase through the rest of the fight. However, every 20% health that he loses after that point, he'll then go and get on a new prime beast until eventually reach the last on-foot phase, where he'll have one ability from each primal beast, so 3 new abilities, and then you'll have to deal with them for the last 45% of his health.
Now, you do actually get to choose which, like, order you get to pick up the mounts, which I thought was, like, a pretty neat idea. And when he's getting to those health thresholds, what you do is you'll take him near the beast that you want him to jump on.
He'll always jump to the nearest beast.
Yeah, exactly. So once he's, like, 85% health, you're like, oh, okay, I want him to go on the wolf. You bring him over to the wolf, and he'll do that. So that's all you have to do. And I think that's quite nice, because it does actually allow you to kind of pick and choose what mechanics you don't like. So, of course, you'll make sure that you use those ones last. So you can prolong them
and use them at the last possible moment. Yeah,
exactly. So before we go into what mount does what and what he gets from each mount, of course he actually does stuff on foot, otherwise he's going to be standing there like a lemon doing nothing. And the first ability of which he does is pin down. Now what this is, he'll throw a spear. It was on 2 targets for us, like underneath a target, but I'm not sure if it'll be more or less.
Yeah, because it's flex mode, it could be more or less.
Yeah, exactly. But he would mark 2 areas underneath players, and after 2 seconds, a giant spear would land on top of them, and they would be impaled, and they wouldn't be able to do anything until you had killed the spear. But you are able to move out of this. You have like 2 seconds to move out of it. So what you need to do is move from it. Surprise, surprise.
If you are caught, you cannot bop, you cannot immune out of it, you can't do anything. So you need to free those targets immediately. And also the spears do interact with other mechanics later on in the fight, so it's probably a good idea to like slowly kill them over time anyway.
Yeah, we were multi-dotting them unless someone got caught, and if someone got caught we would mark it and burst it down and then go back on the boss. So it seems like a pretty easy mechanic, just make sure you do move from it. Some people are having problems seeing it, and maybe it wasn't showing up in everyone's stream.
Sometimes,
yeah, so that's an issue on beta, but I'm sure it'll be fixed by live. But yeah, overall very, very easy ability to deal with.
And the main ability that he seems to do, and this is like the fundamentally the most important thing in the entire fight, is call the pack. And sort of every 20 seconds or so, he'll do this ability, which will spawn a load of little beasts. You need to make sure that you kill them because they have a stacking movement speed and damage increase that can become a little chaotic and can sort of end up almost one-hitting your tanks if you don't kill the ads really, really quickly.
So, like, cleave DPS on this
cleave and
ridiculous.
AoE is like amazing for this. We actually had an enhancement shaman who was like 80% or 85% of his damage was just Fire Nova.
Yeah, he was just cleaving the whole time. Like, if you can cleave, you're going to have a hell of a lot of fun. Unless you're like, probably, I imagine Shadow Priest is going to be pretty sad. And like BM Hunters, you'll just be multi-shotting or mind searing pretty much the whole fucking fight. But either way, that's pretty much what you're doing. You kind of ignore the boss half the time and just kill the ads. It's very, very simple. And the ads do spawn from the same place all the time. So whenever you are tanking the boss, tanking him right by that little door where the ads do come out is a very highly recommended thing from us at least. So I would recommend that you do that.
So we're going to go through all the mounts. So starting off, we're going to talk about Cruel Fang. One of his abilities is Rend and Tear. This will leap to a random target and will then cause that target and all targets within 7 yards to bleed for 20k physical damage every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. So it's quite a nasty dot, but it's physical damage, so armor sort of helps you here. But there's a really... I mean, I assume it's a bug. When he does leap to a target, once he starts moving back towards the tank, he'll also apply the Rend and Tear to all other targets on that route back towards the tank, which means the melee get hit by it.
Yeah, it's just...
Unless melee like move 50 yards away, they're going to get hit by it, which is just a really stupid mechanic. So we can assume that that is bugged. It probably won't be like that on live. And another ability the Cruel Fang has is Savage Howl. This is just an AoE that just like does, well, it's not really that noticeable. It pretty much only hits the melee and tanks, but the main thing this ability does is gives an attack speed buff to himself and all the little boars that have come in from the Call the Pack. So you need to make sure that you dispel this. However, it's not a magical effect, it's an enrage effect. So your hunters, your rogues, and your druids are pretty much responsible for dealing with this debuff. And it's very, very important that it is removed, because 75% attack speed, especially if the pets have been up for quite a long period of time, so they already have the stacks from the blood scent thing, it can be pretty nasty, so you've got to make sure you dispel it as soon as you possibly can. But that's the only thing you need to do with Cruel Fang, just the Rend Tear, the Savage Howl, and then of course you need to do with the spears and the ads. However, when Cruel Fang does die, the ability the boss will gain will be the Rend and Tear ability. So if you did this guy first, the boss will gain this Rend and Tear ability and will do it for the next 20%, as well as the spears and as well as spawning the ads.
So moving on to the next prime beast, which is Iron Crusher, a giant elephant bastard, and he's adorable. He has a couple of mechanics which are pretty good, and the first one is Tantrum, and what he'll do is he'll do a raid-wide AoE for 5 seconds, doing about 20k every second, so it does hurt quite a lot.
Yeah, it's not that much damage, but it does hit hard.
So you might want to like maybe have one like big healing cooldown per one. Like you don't really need a lot, really. Yeah. But with like, especially if this guy maybe isn't your first boss that you do, if you got like Rend and Tears on people and people getting hit by spears and people got ads on them, it can get quite chaotic. So you got to be fairly careful with Tantrum. Now, another ability that he has is Stampede, and what he'll do, he'll charge at like a random player. It seems to be at range, so melee don't seem to be affected by this. And what he'll do, once he gets there, he will stomp the ground, and he'll just do a bunch of damage to that player and anyone around them and knock them back. So it seems to be quite a large radius as well, so I'm not really sure if they're like expecting you to be properly spread out, considering the room is kind of small as well. So it seems like you're just going to have to deal with it, really, just getting knocked about a little bit. That's what we kind of did. We didn't even really bother spreading out or anything. So really it's just more of an irritation than anything else.
And on top of this, Iron Crusher also has a tank debuff that you need to worry about, which is Crush Armor, that literally just reduces your armor by 10% for 15 seconds, and it stacks. So tanks you need to taunt around 3 or 4. Now, once Iron Crusher dies, the boss will gain the Tantrum ability, so you're going to get the constant AoE coming in. If you did kill Cruel Fang before, you also have to deal with a dot.
Yeah, exactly.
So after dealing with those abilities for the next 20%, along with the spears and along with the ads that are coming in, you'll have the last guy to deal with, which will be Dreadwing. The most noticeable ability from Dreadwing is Inferno Breath. This is like a very, very large fire damage breath that also applies a dot that stacks, so the longer you're stood in the breath, the more stacks you'll get. But it is a magical effect and you can dispel it. But if you do get hit by this breath and you get 2 or even 3 stacks, it does a huge amount of damage. However, this breath is completely avoidable. Before the boss does the breath, he will position himself in the area that he's about to do it, and you get a warning saying he's inhaling or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it says, but it's obvious. You just need to move out the way of it.
Yeah, so it's not actually directed at the tank, this ability, at all. He will literally just face the direction. He's like, I'm about to breathe on you. And you're like, okay, I best move it. So you just move from him. So it is kind of recommended that you're fairly close to the boss, of course, so you can actually get a quicker turn around him. You can go quicker around
because
him.
It is a cone.
Yeah, exactly. So just do try and move from it. And if you don't move from it, then you're just going to take a shit ton of damage.
Another ability that he has is Conflagration. This will just set an enemy on fire, that does quite a lot. It's just a dot over 6 seconds. It does do a lot of damage, and it will start affecting other targets that are nearby. It will start doing damage to them.
So it's a spreading conflag.
Kinda, yeah. But you just need to make sure that you dispel it.
Yeah, it's an actual dispellable conflag, which we haven't had for quite some time. So yeah, just dispel this and kind of be a little bit spread out as well. So of course, if it isn't dispelled immediately, it gives the healers a little bit of a chance to maybe, like, of course, so it doesn't spread too far, which is quite important.
Now, this boss also does have a tank debuff, which is Searing Flames. This makes it so the boss's melee attacks deal extra fire damage, but it also increases the target's damage taken from fire spells by 20%, and this stacks, so the tanks again need to taunt on like 3 or 4. And that's all there is to this guy, so you just need to make sure that you move out of the way of the breath, you dispel the conflag, and try not to stand near players that do have the conflag. Tanks, you need to make sure you're swapping on 2 or 3. And then obviously you need to make sure you're still avoiding the spears, you're still AoEing the ads that are coming in. And once he does die, Beastlord Darmac will actually get a ability called Superheated Shrapnel.
So this is pretty much Inferno Breath, except it's kind of less obvious.
Yeah, it's Inferno Breath, but it's just been renamed, and I think the reason why it's been renamed is because they don't really expect him to have some sort of like dragon breath.
Yeah, I guess.
Because it wouldn't really make any sense.
It also does leave like fire on the floor beforehand as well.
It's very, very similar. The only way it is different is that it does leave fire on the ground.
Yeah.
It leaves patches on the ground, so you just gotta make sure that you avoid those. But it more or less is the exact same. So
we actually killed Dreadwing last because of this, because it's just annoying because you have to do so much movement.
Out of all the bosses, Dreadwing is the most annoying to deal with. So that's the order we actually did it in, the order we just shared with you guys there. So after you've killed all the ads, the boss will then enter this last phase. He'll be on 45%, and he'll now have all the abilities that he's gained from the mobs once they've died. However, all the abilities that he has just gained will be stronger than the abilities than what they were on the mounts, but only in terms of damage, pretty much. There are also other effects on the abilities, like he gains, like, the Enrage effect will also be in play now, but it's basically he has all the abilities from all the mounts, but they're just less significant, apart from the main ones that we spoke of, so the Tantrum, the Superheated Shrapnel, and the Rend and Tear. They just flat out do more damage, but he gains sort of lesser versions of everything else, but they're just not significant. And at this point, it's literally, can you avoid all the mechanics and can you out-heal it, and can you finish the fight before he kills you through the Tantrum? Because the Tantrum at this point does do a lot of damage.
Yeah, you just got to have a lot of healing cooldowns at this point. And what we did as well is that we moved him from where the ads were spawning and tried to move him a bit more in the middle of the room at this point, so we had more space, because it did fill with all the superheated shrapnel.
And it's at this point as well that the spears start pulsating fire around them.
Yeah,
this was really, really unclear.
Yeah, it wasn't very clear of what point in which the spears would actually start doing fire, and if this fire was avoidable. But what we did throughout the entire fight, as soon as I saw that they were doing anything, I was like, fuck the spears, let's just multi-dot them all down. Because we did have a lot of dot classes, they just melted half the time anyway, and people wanted to haul because of it. So there was loads of dots going out, and to be honest, that's what I'd recommend that you do, is that you do keep on top of the spears as well. This whole fight just seems kill all the ads all the time and move from simple ability, grats.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the whole fight, really, and I'm not particularly sure I'd like that kind of fight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to feel like we're
I don't
shit-talking it entirely. We try not to be too negative with, like, new bosses, because it is beta. It could be completely different. But the stance on it right now, at least from us two, is that it could be a lot better, and that maybe the removal of some of the mechanics and just making the mechanics that are already there, maybe the more prominent ones, making them more stronger or making them more deadly, would make the fight better than just having a shit ton of mechanics.
Yeah, it felt like a mini boss more than anything.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
It felt like a bit of trash before a main boss. And I'm not sure, because you've got to remember that this instance is set out in wings, so maybe they do expect you to do this boss first or something. And if this is Babby's first boss in this instance,
it's not too bad,
I guess. That's just a really fucking good boss for Babby's first boss. Look at Mercius. That has like one mechanic, whereas this one does have quite a few mechanics, and it isn't particularly difficult, but there's quite a lot going on. So I think if it was a first boss, fair enough, not bad. But if it is expected to be kill 7th in the instance, it just doesn't weigh up to what a boss should be at that point in the instance. I
totally agree.
So I guess that is kind of an issue with winged instances as they are anyway.
And obviously having mechanics that are exactly the same as what we've already seen throughout every other instance in the game.
Yeah.
it's a little bit disappointing.
Well, yeah,
maybe.
well, I do like the idea that you can choose them out and everything, but of course that's from the second boss in Morgul'shan Vaults. The spikes are either from Marogar, or you could say from the fourth boss in Morgul'shan Vaults. It just feels like they've just made a whole list of mechanics they liked and thrown it at the boss, and it just.
And whether that's
really
a good thing or a bad thing, we're not sure. That's probably for another video.
Yeah, but some people like the boss. I've talked to other people, and they're like, "That boss was fucking amazing," and I'm like, I just don't see it.
Well, we'll leave it for these guys. You guys tell us in the comments, what do you think? But thank you very much for watching, guys. If you did enjoy the video, please do drop us a like. And of course, we'll see you on the live stream.
Thanks for watching.